This is a story about basic underwater demolition SEAL training and deals with one particular problem that happened during Hell Week. The title of this story, Mute Screams and Jelly Beans. It was 2200 hours or 10 p.m., the fourth night of Hell Week, and we were cold and exhausted. During the previous 4 days, we had been conducting exercise after training exercise, 24 hours a day without an hour's sleep. But each day, during the previous 3 days, we had been given a 30 to 45 minute break. This wasn't nearly enough time to even think about sleep, so we spent it trying to get warm. When we were given the first break, most trainees changed into dry clothes without anticipating the consequences. When the instructor saw this, they immediately ordered everyone into the cold water of the bay, and there we stayed for the next half hour. We had just completed our evening training exercise, much to the dissatisfaction of the instructors, when we were ordered to assemble in front of our barracks. As punishment for not doing what would have been deemed satisfactory, we were ordered into the bay. There we would stay until the instructors were satisfied that we had paid for our transgressions. In order to survive basic underwater demolition SEAL training, you must learn one basic precept. When it seems that you can't take any more, you must retreat to a place in your mind totally separate and away from the situation at hand. One way to do this is to sing. It may sound strange, but during training you do a lot of singing. It helps take your mind off of your suffering. Also, when you hear the voices of other trainees, you realize that you are not in it alone, the only one feeling the pain. The songs that you sing are not top 10 tunes, but rather silly songs, fraternity songs, songs without meaning. So here we were in the bay, dog paddling and singing songs. 30, then 45 minutes elapsed, and the thought that we wouldn't be given the break we had been so anxiously anticipating started to control my thoughts. Then came what we had all been hoping for, a signal from the instructors telling us to leave the water. At this point, all I could think about was trying to get warm, finding a way to stop shaking, a way to put heat back into my freezing body. As the trainee struggled out of the water, one of the instructors shouted, "You have 45 minutes, ladies, don't waste them." It would be a mad dash for the showers, and then 45 minutes of standing under the hot water in an effort to replenish the body heat lost during that grueling day. As we were climbing out of the water, Doc Barber, one of the instructors, asked Mike Paul, our boat crew officer, if he would like some jelly beans. Barber had been eating jelly beans and harassing us the whole time we had been in the bay. Now everything that you do in training in Hell Week is done as a boat crew, a team, not as an individual. I say this because what was to happen next would bring pain, not only to Mr. Paul, but to all members of his boat crew as well. In response to Doc Barber's question, Mr. Paul loudly replied, "Hey, Doc Barber, only candy asses eat jelly beans." Now, can you imagine what went through my mind when I heard this? Doc Barber then asked Mr. Paul if he had heard him correctly. Before any of us could intervene, Mike repeated, "I said only candy asses eat jelly beans." It had happened so quickly that none of us had a chance to stop him. By now, all the other Class 28 trainees who had heard Mr. Paul started scrambling over each other, trying everything in their power to distance themselves from us. You know that old adage, guilt by association? Well, I'm certain they knew there would be severe repercussions for what Mike had said, and none of them wanted to be a part of it. Doc Barber laughed, and for a moment I thought everything would be all right. That feeling vanished in a heartbeat as I heard Doc Barber tell Mr. Paul that he had something very special in store for him. We all knew him really meant us, and whatever it wasn't going to be a nice kind of special. Now, the last thing that any of us wanted to do was to get back into the cold water. Therefore, I shouldn't have been surprised when asked, "What is the one thing you would least like to do?" And Mike responded, "Spend any more time in the bay." Anyone, especially an officer, should have known that the answer to that question could dictate the something very special Doc Barber had in mind. With that, Larry and I turned around and jumped back into the bay, anticipating the inevitable, and rightly so. Doc Barber laughed and told Mike and the rest of the boat crew to do the same. All I could think about was strangling Mr. Paul as we dog paddled and Doc Barber sat there eating his jelly beans. I thought about the other trainees standing under a hot shower and became more enraged. Then again, Doc Barber asked Mr. Paul if he would like some jelly beans. At this point, I tried to scream, but nothing happened. I was so cold, my words were inaudible. Luckily, Mr. Paul didn't respond to Barber's request, and our punishment ended when the rest of the class was ordered to fall in and start the next training exercise. You guessed it, 45 minutes later. The time period during which the above transpired was no more than 2 hours, a mere 2 hours of all those hours that comprised Hell Week. And while this may not be an event remembered by other members of Class 28, for me, it left a lasting impression. Many years have passed since that fateful night, but to this day, whenever I see jelly beans or hear of someone screaming and not being heard, I am always drawn back to that night of mute screams and jelly beans. If you enjoyed this story and would like to purchase a copy of my book, go to www.udt-seal-stories.com and I will send you a signed copy. If you prefer the Kindle, go to amazon.com, books, and type in Nick Nicholson. Thank you.